Sudan is not on top of most people's social feed, but the country has been at war for an entire year. We're talking about 40,000 people who have been killed, and more than 8 million people who were forced to flee their home is what has been described as the largest displacement crisis in the world. So how did we get here? Two men team up to oust longtime leader Omar al-Bashir in a coup in 2019. One, Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, the head of a powerful paramilitary group known as the Rapid Support Forces. The other, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, now the head of the army. And as part of what came next, the RSF was meant to be absorbed into the Sudanese armed forces. But a power struggle between the two exploded into war on April 15, 2023. The Sudanese capital, Khartoum, was the main theater of war, but the fighting quickly spread into a nationwide conflict. In Darfur, fighting took on an ethnic dimension, resurfacing old rivalries stemming from the brutal civil war 2 decades earlier, which pit Arab militiamen against fighters from non-Arab ethnic groups, and resulted in the deaths of more than 300,000 people. Soon after the war began, I traveled to northern Chad, where refugees from Darfur were escaping to. Women told me stories of summary executions and a level of violence that they had not experienced before. Since then, the situation has only worsened. A UN report listed cases of rape, child recruitment, torture, and decapitation. The vast majority of cases of sexual violence were attributed to the RSF, including one incident where a victim was kept and gang-raped for 35 days, according to the UN. Amid all of this, 5 million people are on the brink of famine, and 18 million are facing acute food insecurity because fighting has devastated agricultural production inside the country and aid is not moving freely. Sources told Al Jazeera that both sides are preventing food from entering the rivals' area, either by imposing bureaucratic obstacles or by demanding food, money, or fuel in exchange for safe passage. Al Jazeera reached out to both parties to ask over this allegation, but has received response. In much of the country, the internet has been almost non-existent for the past 2 months. This means people aren't able to use mobile banking apps to receive money sent from abroad. Without cash, people are resorting to the most extreme coping mechanism. Women are selling their bodies, parents are skipping their own meal for their children, and the elderly are putting money that used to go to medicine for food. A Dutch think tank estimated the most likely scenario is for famine to break out across most of Sudan by June. And what about any prospect for peace? There have been efforts from the US, Saudi Arabia, the African Union, and other regional players too, but they have all come to nothing. Observers believe that this is because each side still believes it can win the war outright without having to sit for meaningful negotiations. But 1 year on, that hasn't happened yet. Meanwhile, atrocities continue.